Good evening, Club Cult. Club Cultians of the world. Thank you for being patient with me during this chaotic timeline of life. It has been an interesting one. It's been interesting. There's way too much open that I don't need open right now. I cleaned up my wish lists. I'm cleaning up everything. Proud. And I can't get my Amazon list to reconnect to Throne. It's annoying. It's ridiculous. Ziki, that's Voya's food. We finished munching for now. Nope. Nope. You guys are, like, technically on the same food now, but... Hold on. Voya has a different, little fun cone coming. And then we'll be able to use his regular feeder again instead of silly bowls. I feel bad for making a mess out of this one, and he needs it, but it's fabric. So I can't just throw it in the wash. Lame. Lame. Alright, this is a poorly thought out layout. Let us fix. Let us fix. It's more normal. This doesn't need to be open. I think this phone is too old to connect with what I used to use. I think that's what the problem is. So we're messing with a different program now. And we'll see how that one wants to work. Yes, I want to abandon my Snapster piece. It sounds so weird to say out loud. It looks cute to see it. But it sounds weird to say out loud. Serena spam incoming. The holidays. Happy holidays. To me, to you. Ba-da-doo-doo-doo. Bless you. Ziki. Dun, dun, dun. Big stretch. Ziki was so zoomy earlier. It was so funny. He's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the Ever Chaotic Stream the Dreams Project. It's one of the vlogs I had to rip for the Creator Plus program. Many vids. Trying to find out what's like not too zoo oriented because that's weird. But then also trying to figure out some deals going on for Mr. Bean still. Like what I want to put on there. So far I went with like a little 2024 vlog, World of Wheels vlog. A couple of game VODs, tub stream. It's hard to suss out like what of my content I want to put on there. That's so annoying. Annoying apparently is the word of the night. Annoying. Otherwise, you're like effectively shadow banned. You don't join the Creator Plus program, which is dumb. I feel like that's only temporary anyway, with the way of the world and legislature. It'll either be a secondary method of verification in a way, and it'll be positive, or zoom zoom. Ziki says stream time is playtime. It'll be a way to establish creators and then force them to delete their not safe for work content later. Do I have Discord on this computer yet? What all is on here? I think I've moved all of my programs. I just have to move files. It's the last part. Trying to rip files that will disappear, like VODs. Before I rip actual files, because those won't disappear on me. They won't. They're permanent. Permanencia. I think we have some welcomes to do. up and orienting weird. Working with different screen sizes here. Oh my goodness. Golly gee willikers, Batman. Welcome, Kay. And you deleted your account, so I can't welcome you. You are a person of the non-existence. You guys hop into the Discord, please don't forget to green check them, their rules, so that I can reel you in offline. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Boya, what do you think about stream? Is music chill enough for you? I think we're gonna play some Wizards tonight. So that will be relaxing, I think. Relaxing sounds for the boy. I think. Maybe. We'll see. We shall see. Let's see if I can get the kitten cam hooked up. I'm confused about what came up earlier. Like, my phone died, which is interesting because it was plugged in. It's done that before, so okay. But the other thing came up with a thing that said sponsored session. This was a free session sponsored by TeamViewer.com. TeamViewer sessions are free of charge for personal use. So will it still work? We shall see. We shall see. I have the camera on Stripes right now. She's probably being an eepy silly girl. Oh, where's all of the things now? This is so new and different. It's very new and different. Connect? Question mark. Allow access. Skamooch. Start broadcast. I think. Oh, it connected right together. That's nice. The other one we have to retoggle every single time. Such a weird layout. I don't think I'm doing this the most comprehensively intelligent way, but it gets done. Aw, Stripey's sleepy. Stripey eepy. I gotta reorient the crop. Zeke Zekerton, what are you doing tonight? Too far. This one's more blurry. It's like scuffed ass quality. I don't know. It's bizarre. I like the ease of connection, but it's kind of scuffy. Stripes can. Post spay number 1. She's number 1. She's number 1. Oh yeah, Stripes is number 1. You're just a sleepy little bear over there. Oh, my cursor doesn't select from there. Well, there was an attempt. I think I can close that. Yes. Decent. Where are you chilling? Zeke out his meds, gone through his meds. Boy, you eat your meds at midnight. He's all gabbed up. He's stony baloney. Stony baloney, boy. Stony baloney, boy. Oh, my username is not up saved. Login? Question mark? Then we're gonna try something. Put that there. Put that there. Take that off of there because we're obviously connected. Is Wizards launching? Oh my god, you're gonna take forever. Slow. Slowpoke Jamoke. Crikey. Oh no, how did I used to do this? Like that? Like that. Welcome, Smoops. I hope the week has been kind to you. Which school of magic will your wizard be? Whatever she wants to be. Freedom of choice. I'm so excited to have this back and running. It's just a video broadcast. But they changed it a little bit. It used to be a little bit more muchier. Had more stuff to it when it first came out. I wonder if there's like a paid version now. I wonder. Where is this gonna? Oh no. Oh no. I have to reorient the hell out of this. I just lost you guys. It came up on the screen that it wasn't supposed to. Fuck. 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 No. Shrink. Shrinky dinky rinky dink. Or options. Full screen off. Turn it the fuck off. I don't know what I want this at. That was traumatic. That was traumatic. Oh god. It's been good. Nice. Found a new obscure Star Wars character with a funny name playing Lego Star Wars called Kit Fisto. Why would that be his name? What were his parents thinking? Oh no. Oh no. That's awful. It's awful. It's purely awful. Oh, I shrunk. I have no torso! So different. I want to see what this guy looks like. I cannot, like, usually when you hear someone's name, I feel like you can imagine, like, at least what they might broadly look like. Even if it's not what they actually look like. And there's too much on my screen right now. I need to fix that. I cannot picture who this man is. It's a last name. I'm guessing they're also Fistos. The Fisto family! It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It made my night. He's green. Are the Fistos related to the Hulk? Kit Fisto. Oh, he looks like a judge. I was not expecting that. I don't know if that's just his species or if he has like a wig going on there. He looks like a judge. A judgy judge. Looks like George Washington. He cute though. Oh, nice. Which one are you on now? He's interesting looking. I'm not gonna put stripes over my head. I'm gonna shove stripes up here. She eepin' anyway. I'm just gonna rotate their cams like every chunk of time or so. Oh, this is also nice, but it's also different. I don't know what I'm doing. I do, but I don't. But I do, but I don't. Earlier, I put my sleep stream into just chatting on Twitch. I meant to put just catting. It was embarrassing to come back to. Wizard 101. You're on episode 2. Nice. Beat the original trilogy. Damn. That's impressive. I doubt that this is actually real. but it would be neat if they slightly changed the quality in 4 through 6 to match up with the original trilogy. And then, like, souped it up and made it super smooth for the newer ones. But that's just my own personal pipe dream. Let's go. Oh, I want to devolume that a little bit. Oh, I set you to a weird orientation. Let me fix that. Shiny. That's probably better to stretch. Yes. Okay. I like it. Zeke's in the tunnel. I'm congested. I feel like I didn't fully get rid of my previous cold and then contracted another cold. But my body's trying to ignore it. It's kind of the reverse of that. They made the original trilogy games second. I wonder if they wanted to see if the newer ones would catch on to the modern kids versus us older kids first. That would be a cool idea. If they ever remastered or remade it. Are you gonna come up, little flower child? When Voya was recovering from his street injuries, this was the second to last cone he wore. He went from the hard cone to... This is loud. Too loud for Voya. Went from the hard cone to the soft cone to the avocado. The avocado was the final frontier. Now Tank is the avocado. So Voya has a bread loaf on the way. Oh, this is what I ordered for Voya. Where's orders? Oh, I forgot I got 2. Because I'm ridiculous. Don't judge the pink one. Because that one was gonna get here the soonest. So he has a donut on the way. If that one would be good. And another avocado because we love the avocado, but it comes with a bread too. Which is cute. I don't know. And I think the bread one might be better for like getting into his food bowl. Instead of just the avocado. They don't sell the avocado how I bought it before. I mean, that was like 5 years ago. I guess I don't expect the secondary store to still be open, but... Meh. I had to find a packet. But it has a bread, which is really cute. I feel like we can meme Voya the fuck out. I did end up making him an Instagram. It's Voya Knows Best. If everyone wants to be his biggest fan before he gets famous. 11 out of 10. Highly recommend giving him a follow. I need to side quest before we continue on this quest because I'm obviously terrible at it. It's a problem. It's a situation. It's an issue. Do we have anything else queued? Here's my quest. The one that looks like a pacifier. I know this is a scroll and a feather, but it always looks like a pacifier to me. Always. I don't want to do the cog one. It doesn't have the quest helper, which I love a good quest helper. I just do. Some mana. Ravenwood is school. What's this way? Shopping district. Maybe there's Prospector Zeke has something. Zeke! You're a prospector. Zeke zoo. Oh, little Christmas decorations are out in the game. That's an interesting twist on a candy cane decoration. I am marveled. Oh, I don't like these either. And I'm not ready to fuck with the mount. Dang it. Zeke, why must you be so involved? Give me the mana. Give it. I'm very full now. Yes. I think that's a dog. I was thinking that was a cat because I was only seeing it from behind, but I've seen it forward a couple times now. And it looks like a dog bred with a panther. Am I familiar? Unicorn way. There's probably something in here to do. Probably. Welcome, Cygenix. Floating Serena, so magical and wizardy. Eee. I try. I appreciate that new computer lets me do magic. I would viciously regret buying it, but it lets me do magic again, which is nice. Oh, I don't think there is anything in here. I lied to myself. I lied to myself. Like those swirl candies have a name to them. Pinwheels? Oh, that sounds about right. I don't think I've ever seen them as like IRL decorations before though. A trust! Give to me. Peppermint pinwheels. It sounds like a Girl Scout cookie. I'm here for it. Now I kind of want Thin Mints. I'm nauseous as all heck lately. I think just from stress. I don't get acid reflux, which I'm grateful for. But I've never had it a day in my life. Don't know what it feels like. If it ever happened, I'd probably think I'm having a heart attack. What the fuck are you creepy twins doing? Little besties, dressed together. What are golden wisps? Give me the golden wisps. I don't know what I was saying now. In like 10 different directions at one time. Another chest. Bum. Oh, I don't get acid reflux, but I've been nauseous as heck, and that's annoying. And I took something for it, but I crave mint when I'm nauseous. Usually like a good cup of mint tea. I made a little cup of tea earlier. Now I brought up sweets, and Thin Mints sounds so good. Thin Mints are like a hit or a miss for me. They don't always sound like a good idea, because when I was a kid, I ate a whole box of them after dinner, and then I got very sick, and I was at Grandma and Grandpa's, and Grandma and Grandpa had to call my dad and send me home, because I was violently puking cookies. I don't even know if I'm walking over to anything through here. But right now, Thin Mints sound good. Ironically. Welcome, Box. How you doing tonight? Oh, you guys are loud. Calm down. You must keep the peace for Voya. He's a sensitive guy. Just gonna turn it all the fuck down. I mean, I'm fine with the noise, but Voya says if it's too loud, it's because I'm old. Not really old, Voya. Technically, he is a senior, though. Shine candy makes you think of Willy Wonka. Violet, you're turning violet. The exploration is going explory, not very finding side questy. But we're finding chesties, and that's always nice. Your friend that had that happen, they never had heartburn, then got it one day and rushed themselves to the hospital to find out they have heartburn. Like, I guess, like, the tension in your chest from it is very similar to, like, the feeling of an anxiety attack and, like, therefore a heart attack. Because a lot of people mistake anxiety attacks for heart attacks, too. And I don't ever want to experience that. I don't know. Mint tea is very soothing. Peppermint tea is my favorite. I like it. Oh, Box, you got sick. I'm sorry. Lots of tea. Lots of cozy clothes. Lots of cats on your laps. Lots of movies. Have you watched any good movies? Have you relaxed and played any good games? We got a treasure card. We got a treasure card. I don't remember what's at the end of here, so we're just gonna collect all the boxes and see. Is it a school night? I think everyone's out for Christmas break at this point. Why is it not more busy in here? Or like all the noobs aren't playing, because this is noob territory. Like, this is clearly like a 6-year-old just bopping around there on their fucking reindeer. Do I go through here? What's the... Oh, no. I don't do well at mazes. I'm not good at mazes. Make some weed tea, Box. I've always wanted to try that. Have you guys ever made that? It doesn't look very difficult, but weed costs money, and I don't like wasting money. That's why I don't make my own edibles. I'm afraid of making weed garbage. Having green tea right now. I'm having my coffee right now. Green tea is probably a better choice than coffee, but I took metoclopramide, so my body can just take it. Take it, bitch. Wait, there's literally nothing in here. Can I teleport myself? That was silly goose moves. Back to the commons. Like it was sparkly and skulls. Box said a naughty word. Said a naughty word. It was just the sickness talking. I'll forgive it. A dandelion tea, which is kind of a weed tea. Dandelion tea is interesting. It's not very good. It helps you poop. I've had it before. I've had a dandelion and licorice and mint tea mix. Dandelion tea on its own isn't that great tasting, but the mix was actually good. It's supposed to help soothe your tummy. Pet poop. Where the fuck do I want to go? Are you making it so hard to do things? Because I don't pay attention to things. Gollum Court. Or maybe in school. I don't think there's any quest in school area. Well, that's cool. I'm jealous. You look like Barbie. Bitch. I'm jelly. I'm jelly. Core memory unlocked. Can eat dandelion leaves too. When I had my big garden a few years ago, I let the good dandelions grow up in it. And kept it super, like, pesticide free and all of that. Some dandelion salad. Dandelion plus lettuce is good. Dandelion plus arugula is too much earthy flavors. Too much. I don't think there's any question. You just have information. Maybe my school has a question. You look cold. Burr. You look hot. You have something for me? You do? You have something for me? Give to me the buried truth. Or train. Choo choo!
As they say, knowledge is power.
Hi, Voya. I love you. Voya's sitting on the
You'll need to go to the
pedestal next to us.
That is, if you're brave enough.
Do you want to come up? He's stoned as shit. He's all gabapented out.
Once there, search around the graveyard for where the Elder Seer is buried. Remember, a graveyard.
He sounds like
wouldn't
he
scare a
drank
death
weed tea.
student. At least not a brave one.
I don't want to fucking collect the cogs. I don't want to. I want to do that. To the haunted cave. My brain is seeking game serotonin. I am locked in. I hope the week has been kind to everybody. I'm having trouble looking away. But I think that's like tired too. Oh my god. So locked into the stair. No, why is it? So it's still synced to Stripes. Oh, I have. Never mind. I'm stupid. I just said I'm tired. It's meds time for me, and then you get meds in an hour, Voya Bean. He's on his gabapentin to try and keep him calm. Thinking back, I caused all of this. You can listen to the comments and appreciate Little Miss GI Transformer over here. I moved the furniture in here. Well, that doesn't make sense if I do that. But pointing behind me means nothing. Your boos mean nothing to me. I've seen what makes you cheer. Like a month ago, I think? Maybe a little bit less than. And then we took apart the desk and moved everything in front of. And my vet made a good point, too. I had things stacked, like, in front of the litter boxes, and no one was fussing to get to the litter boxes. The Friday night that we were setting up the PC. But if Kitty can't have good, easy, fast access to the litter boxes, or it's confusing, then they kind of hold their legs about it. And then too much builds up and it can get irritated that way. I think it was literally a stack of the lovely common phrase, a perfect storm. It's no bueno. There's much less blood coming out of him. I just have to make sure that he's going consistently, eating consistently, doing okay consistently. Spinny, 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 spinny. We're back to his baby book. His little baby book timeline. I have so many of these. It's a baby tracker to write down what Voya does, but I wrote down literally everything he did for, I don't know, the first 2-3 years that I had him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The first one is 2021. Then I stopped in 2023. Hi. The first one is 2020 through 2021, and the last one that I have is in 2023. So that's when he was like stable, studied, normal, all good. So we're gonna go back to the book because I have cameras in here. I can write down every time he goes bathroom and all of that. And then I can objectively judge whatever he's going through. I never should have stopped writing down your everything. That's okay. She's like a baby. You gotta write down when he pees, when he poops, when he eats, when he gets his meds. Oh, meds. I've seen my meds. Full circle. I'll be right back. Hiya, Bean. I love you. Are you hungry? Hungries. You want tries? You want tries? Tries. Hi, baby. Void was like depressed as fuck in her tent. So she's free from her tent now and there's pillows shoved under everything. I have all of the pillows that I can allocate in this house allocated. Which is a lot. Being a girl having a lot of pillows. He is baby. He is my baby. And my baby is eating good. Eating good. In the neighborhood. Oh, and then you just finished. You want to come up, E? Put your bowl up. You want up, E? Oh. Baby. The babies are unhappy in their tents. Oh boy, your cone disappears. Oh no. Oh, baby Bean. You disappear. Here. He's so stoned. There we go. Okay, settle in cozy. There he goes. Babies are tolerating their tents, but they're upset about being away from each other. I'll let Voya sit for a little bit, and then we'll either swap to... I think Stripes is up. Daisy or Nibbler Cam. Still striving for that better Cults and Gardens cover. You know it! Say the Headless Horse Cat for Halloween to Spoopy. That was so weird. I wonder why it didn't take. That's so strange. Like now it's staying because he is one with me, but there you go. Mr. Mean Little Flower Child. Little Flower Child. Are you happy? Is this comfy? Are you satisfied? Is it good? You can settle. He's so malleable. Being all stody. Little flower child. Little flower child. You gave us a scare. You gave us a really big scare, you know. You can't be doing that. Calm, quiet, relaxed now. I'm selling the ranch. We're never moving. I'm never changing a single thing in Voya's life. Never changing my clothes, never changing the blankets, never changing the furniture. Just kidding. On the first two. I don't even know how the fuck we're gonna move at this point. For you're gonna need like 6 times the gabapentin. It's nerve-wracking. It's scary. It's scary. Thankful for not smell-o-vision. Okay, Futurama. That's one of the opening title sequences, isn't it? Like now with smell-o-vision or something. Or was that one of the professor's inventions? I think it was one of his inventions, actually. They might have used it for both. Here's the cave. The haunted cave. The haunted cave. Oh, it's full in there. Dang. All the noobs are offline. Let me in, bitch. Let me in. The smell of scope. That was his invention. I think one of the opening titles was Smell-o-vision. I'm curious. Someone had to have been autistic enough to put together a comprehensive list of all of the opening titles. Meaning that in a good way. Futurama episode that features the smell-o-vision gag in the title card is The Honking, Season 2, Episode 18, with the caption reading, "Smell-o-vision users insert nostril tubes now," referencing the real-life flawed 1960s movie tech. So we learned today. There are real concepts for making smell-o-vision? Oh my god. I mean, that would be cool, but realistically, how could that actually be comprehensively done, other than the way of... I don't even know what they're called. I've only been to one once before. That's when I saw Doctor Strange. You can go uppy? Okay. The movie theaters that have, like, the moving chairs that react to the movie and kind of boop you around a little bit so you feel like you're in all of it. I'm describing it terribly. I'm not a good sales pitch woman for things like this. That one, but then, like, it would... Psh, like, exhaust smells or, like, food smells or something at you that would match up with the movie. Where's the haunted cave? Well, clearly there's shit to do in here. Is it more that way? Am I going further? No. Oh, it's up. It's up. You saw Bug's Life in one like that? That's awesome. I feel like that would be way better than Doctor Strange. I would actually know the lore of what's going on because it would all be included in one movie versus I was confused during Doctor Strange. Like, it was good action, it was good visuals, and it was a good storyline, but there were definitely pieces that I did not know with it. Right over my head. A Bug's Life is so cute. There's the stupid cogs for the stupid thing, and I don't want to do it. I guess we could on the way out if they're just over here. I remember it being more difficult. Maybe I'm thinking of the smithy one. You know, look around for the little guys everywhere, because there's a crap ton of cogs out here. Cogs everywhere! A whole bunch of cogs. COGs, clearly. Did that away. You just like your desk space, Mr. B. And he appears. And he disappears. Doctor Strange may be one of the last Marvel movies you saw. It's definitely the last Marvel movie I saw. And the first that I had seen in probably a good 5 years of having since watched a Marvel movie, so I was missing a lot. A lot. Let me in. Find gravestone in haunted cave. That looks like a gravestone. That's ore. Ore! It's ore, not a gravestone. Ore. A floating boy head appears. It reminds me of the floating heads in the Haunted Mansion. Boy, you can haunt my mansion any day. When you are no longer of this world, you had better haunt me. I don't know how, but you need to do it. Gunther is so relieved to have Voya home, but ironically and unfortunately, Gunther stressed himself out missing Voya. It's not funny, but like, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. Gunther stressed himself out so much by missing Voya that he got a mild urinary tract infection. So I'm using my backup antibiotics, okayed with my vet, of course, to be able to sort that out for him. So he's peeing good too, but he had a couple moments of strain. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You know he's still with you and your mic mutes itself? Yes. It's true. No, I streamed without you and I don't know how to do that. It was the weirdest experience of my life. It was the weirdest experience of my life. I hear a strange noise. Oh, they changed the sound effects for that.
I shall now bestow some of my knowledge from the beyond upon you. Train well.
I remember that being like a bit more direct. I could be wrong though. I know my familiar's name is Optio Jackson, but I can't stop reading it as Percy Jackson. Oh, it was super lame / cool of me. I saw they came out with a Percy Jackson show. I really liked the movie when it came out. I don't know if they did multiples of, but the first one at the very least was good. And the books were amazing. The books were actually phenomenal. Would probably enjoy rereading again if I had all the time in the world. But I'm curious how good the show is and how the show holds up. I like when books get made into shows versus movies, so they can add more details. Except Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones kind of shit the pot on that one, but I really can't speak objectively or complainingly either because I haven't watched all of it, so I have no room to bitch. I think of most things in life how my dad taught me to think about voting in politics, and it's if you don't vote then you don't get to have an opinion, in a nutshell. And that's how I feel like when I haven't seen or read all of something and I'm trying to have an opinion on it. Like, you didn't consume all of it. You don't get to have an opinion. You don't get to have one. You had no clue about the Percy Jackson stuff until your cousin filled you in. Sheesh, for shame. Percy Jackson was so magical and wonderful when I was growing up. And my niece got super into it when she was about the same age. And then, well, maybe a little bit younger. And it made me super, super happy. I got to re-experience it with her. My nephew never got into them, though, which surprised me. The cog situation. We only need 3 of them. Let's do that. I feel like he would have liked that. He did like the Captain Underpants as well. very different. Percy Jackson was pretty nifty, though. It's not something that I feel strongly emotionally about, but I feel strongly nostalgically for. I put a lot of hours into those books. Put a lot of emotional depth into the characters. Emotional investment, not depth, into the characters. Can she? Oh, I was collecting the cog. I was wondering if they could while I did that. Snake. Oh, he's watching the game. He's watching the game. And you all just lost the game. I've been away from the internet for too long. I've gone back in time. Do that one. Beat her, grab the cogs, and then I'm gonna switch to either Daisy or Nibbler Cam. Oh, I got it. That was rude. 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 Excuse me. Dude. Firecat. Thundercats. Ho! Roar. I moved the speakers and it sounds better. It's nicer. Move them just a little bit. It's more surrounding, nicely. Encapsulatingly. My tired self just realized it looks ridiculous to be looking sideways with the game everywhere. I'm gonna swap screens. Eh. Okay, then you can go and heal yourself. Darling, you can go and heal yourself. Okay. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. It's never a big believer. Justin Bieber fan. He's kind of grown on me over the years. Makes like real music now instead of like silly boy band pop. Oh, stop beating me up, lady. She's tough. She's a tough ghoul. A tough ghoul indeed. Goodness golly. Give me cards! Get her. Yeah, that's right, Euphism. Ice beetle. Cooked. Cooked. Baked. Battered. Fried. Cooked. It's my cog. Okay. Where did I need to bring that back to? Was there more to that? I guess. Oh. Oh. Grab the mana. Beauty and the Beast acoustic album was a slayer. Beauty and the Beast has such a beautiful soundtrack. It's gorgeous. Tale is old as time, song is old as rhyme. Beauty and the Beast. Oh, the song is about Voyana. I'm the Beast. He's the beauty. He's my baby. There's my baby cat. You gave us a scare this week, son. Holy cannoli. Please never do that again. Never. Ever. Ever. Like, this is magical to me. The computer is so cool right now, like, literally, like, cold, like, cooled. My GPU is so low. My CPU is so low. Like, I don't think I've seen these numbers in my life. I did a good. I found a good computer. Perhaps it was not the best timeline, but we found a good computer. I am happy. I need you to function as well as the computer, Voya. Imagine if you had like a stock market big ticker sign across his head that said what his stats are. It would be helpful. I mean, if you're a diabetic, you would have one of those little sugar monitor things. Like that people can wear. They have ones for animals too that I've seen, but most animals I would think would not put up with it, like would want to scratch it off. It's very far and few between that they'll put up with something like that. But it's interesting that they exist. Oh, you inglorious bastard. It's not a nice bug. It is a mean beetle. It is a very mean beetle. Get that guy. Mr. Not the snake. Blarg. A blarg. Oh, it's not highlighted. Aw, thank you, Box. I mean, I at least look better than her. We have that going for us. I napped and I didn't wake up with my hair looking like that. I hate looking in the mirror lately. I look so tired. Like, it's been an extremely long and stressful week, but like... I look tired, which makes me look sad. So I look in the mirror and I look like I'm about to cry, and it's like, bitch, you're fine. The week has just weighed upon me. Oh, now we get to use that guy. Unless we fizzle, I shouldn't jinx it. I should have healed myself. Because what if we fizzle? Hopefully not. Nope. We good. We good. We good. Much damage. Slight heal. Oh, he got more powerful. Yay. He's a good boy. I'm gonna switch kitty cams. And we'll be right back. And put either Daisy or Nibbler on next. On this episode of Serena TV. Ah! Stupid external monitor. The cats have bird TV on right now. You guys hear bird sounds? I didn't get birds. They have YouTube on my old computer. A bird TV. I just ran into the monitor. It didn't feel good. I'll be right back. We're okay. I'll be right back. I love you. Gunther, are you gonna come in for some lovin's? Are you? I think he is. I think Nibbler and Daisy's tents have like not tints, but the mesh is different on the sides versus the front zipper, and I have Nibbler's front zipper part turned around to the back, so we'll see a little bit of Nibbler and then mostly Miss Daisy. They are spoiled. They're so spoiled. The kitties ever lick my hair? Yes, but I try not to let them because I get nervous when I see a dingleberry coming out with my hair attached to it. Like, don't let my existence end yours. But I freak out about everything, to be fair. So they do. They do. Who's doing things? Boya, you want your food? Gunther's doing things. There you go, baby. You get some more GABA in 20 minutes, you little fiend. Good job, Gunther. Good job. No, Gunther, that's Voya's food. Come here, you little football. It's Voya's food. It's Voya's food. Daisy's so creepy. I gotta change the camera title. I gotta look back on the cameras first. Ow, ow, ow. Settle, settle, settle. Thank you. Okay, you just peed. Good job. You peed in there before you. Voya, you peed at... Literally, I was just in the kitchen for like 2 seconds at 10:11. Gunther, we gotta write it in the books. Zeke is not pictured. He is the man in charge of the books. He is the man in charge of the books. Secretary Zeke. Secretary Zeke. Remove. Gone. I'm gone. Creepy nibbler strips busting all day. They do look so creepy. I love it. It's marvelous. Oh, kitty cam title. This is so nice, but it's so different. I don't know what I'm doing or where anything is. And I, like, flipped everything around today. Because it looks better that way. I'm just... Post spade number 2 and number 3. Bloop. Number 2, number 3, Daisy. What are you doing? Daisy hates being in the tents the most. I'm trying to keep them super calm and not riled up. My vet is closed until Tuesday because he has elbow surgery. He had elbow surgery today, actually. And then once he's open again on Tuesday, I'll probably release them into the room. All the furniture has stuff underneath it. I'm just gonna have to figure out how to keep them from climbing on it if I can. But this Tuesday will be, whoa, how do you see calendar on here? There. Be how many days? When were they spayed? The 16th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So a little bit over a week recovered. So I don't think they'll be too at risk for ripping anything. I don't think. We'll let them be free from their tents then. Free birds! Oh, in Triton Avenue, I wasted my time with this bitch. Bitches, they be wasting your time. That's bitches for you. Bitches. Are we here in Triton Avenue? You're acting like we are. We'll find out, I guess. Did you see Metalocalypse ever? You talk about releasing the kitties. Makes you think of a clip from that. I had friends that watched it, but we didn't have cable TV when it was on. So the few pieces of Adult Swim that I did see were whatever was on when I was at my grandparents'. At whatever time of night I would flip around to it. So I'm aware of like bits and pieces of it, but certainly not the entire storyline. Almost all of my friends watched it though, and I never understood the references because I didn't watch it. Metalocalypse was like original Adult Swim, wasn't it? Because it was on around the time as Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I remember catching Aqua Teen Hunger Force in pieces. When I was like 19, I binge watched all of it though. Torrented it. Victory! Okay, now it counts. I'll take it. Need more mana though. Blurg. Fight me. Aqua Teen Hunger Force! Lives rent-free in my head. Leaky big jump. No, that's Voya's food. Nope. I'm not saying I'm like perfect or like magical by any means, but I have like this mom sense. Like, granted, you did just jump off the table, but, like, how did I know he was gonna go to the food? How did I know? I just knew. Some part of me just knew. Aqua Teen Hunger Force! I don't remember what the premise of that show was, except that it was funny. I don't think there really was a premise to it. It was just random shit with, like, a base storyline that they would follow, but, like, go off on every little tangent. Zeke is a big-time snacker. He is. But he doesn't, like, chow down on his food. He wants what everyone else has. Voya's getting switched to Zeke's food, though. Even though he didn't have crystals. Chronic UTIs can cause enough irritation to cause crystals. Ooh, we're just gonna do that and knock her out. Lizzie fizzle, please don't fizzle. So thankfully I already have the food that he needs to switch to, but he's gonna switch to that one. There's a calm version of that too, and I think I might switch them both to that. I don't know what makes it calm. There's like pot in it or something, just kidding. It's toxic. Not CBD, but I don't think there's CBD in it either. Maybe there is. I have to look it up, but we have a big bag of this stuff that we're gonna use first, because prescription food is expensive. Not that I won't give my boy everything that he needs, but... yeah, it's a good way of putting it. There's basically no arc overall. Like, the typical storyline of, like, introduce characters, introduce problem, introduce climax of problem to solution, and then introduce solution, and then everyone's happy at the end of the day. For most shows, that rings true. In that style of, like, sitcom, whether, cartoon, I almost like commercial. Whether cartoon... or peoples. And there's really no arc to that. Like, there's no lesson learned at the end of most episodes. I do stupid things for no reason, and we already know this. But my new favorite thing is to... not favorite, but I'm enjoying it. Try and figure out story arcs that overlap. And in what similar way? So this is gonna sound ridiculous. But I've been rewatching Hannah Montana because it's a comfort show. I don't know. I don't know if it's just like a bougie comfort show because like I barely watched it when it was on because I couldn't, or I just like it now at my ripe age, or I don't know. It's just good. But I realized, this is I think my 4th or 5th rewatch. Super cool, right? You're cranky. There's 2 overarching storylines. I always thought the dad, Robbie Ray, as a character, what's his name? Billy Ray? There we go. And Jackson, the son, were just background characters, like side questing around in the show. But they actually have, if you take the broad idea of what like Hannah's story arc is in the show for that episode, they have like the most watered down version of it, almost consistently. It's the same problem, just in the most dumbed down, watered down sense. Which is weird. But like, kind of smart? I don't know. And take what would usually be a washed idea and just turn it into a secondary storyline.
Now, put those cogs to good use and get the old wheel turning. I'll fix the lightning rod.
I'm excited to find a more mature show that has a similar character set that I can compare the arcs to. I feel like Modern Family would be a good watch for that one. I've never seen that, and it's been recommended to me many times. Go to the mill wheel? Well, I'm not ready for that. We're gonna do this side quest. Or, how close is this? Oh, it's very close. The wheel? Ezekiel saw the wheel? Oh, cool. Done. Goal complete. New goal. Use lever.
Well done, wizard.
Woo! Thought we were done.
I'm back in business.
Oh, he's back in business. Hi, Gunther. What were you just doing?
Fully charged Lumina crystal. She's a beauty. I hope she serves you well.
Nothing worrisome. Oh, God. I'm surrounded over here. I ran into the laptop this time. It's damn bird TV. I actually hate the sound of birds. It stresses me out. I've been doing my best to ignore it because I love Voya and it's for the betterment of him. But I don't like bird sounds. They're nice, I will say. Is he the Grinch? Oh, he already went up. But bird sounds remind me of staying up a little bit too late when the birds start chirping in the morning. And hearing them in the background just kind of sets me on edge and makes me feel like I'm behind with everything. It's uncomfortable.
Illumina crystal. This
Illumina
is just
crystal.
What we need.
Illumina crystal.
The
Okay.
Lumina crystal will boost the power. It's working.
Gunther, get off the computer. I know I said I don't like the bird sounds, but you didn't have to turn them off. What are you doing, Pooper? You're such a pooper. Boy, you're chilling. Where's Zeke? Zekerton. He's in the tunnel. He was so playful earlier. It was so cute. Ow, you need a nail trim. You need a nail trim. Ow. Ow. I'm gonna do it when he's all sleepy and relaxed and laying down. Doesn't let me just swoop him over and do it like
But what was
Voya's.
that horrifying thing with her?
Settle.
That's the Harvest Lord.
The Harvest
She's
Lord.
a powerful spirit from the underworld who harvests the souls of the innocent.
There you go, Cozy. There you go, Cozy. Do you guys like my super cool yellow socks? I'm still wearing them.
It looked like she's in Galvanos Tower. That must be where the Harvest Lord is enchanting the storm amulets.
They're so
Wizard,
bright.
Please free my sister.
Oh no. It's another tower quest though. Like, that's not great. That's not what I wanted. Like, everything is going way further than I need it to. Oh my god. I'm good. not cool, man. Need more shmana. You don't want to go all the way back to the forking commons, though. It's too much. It's too much. I can't. I won't. Oh, you guys, I am so grateful and happy. One, we're gonna try and do a handful of bikini streams over, I guess, quote, winter break timeline. Because I have surgery coming up in January, and then we'll be cozy babies for a hot minute. It's annoying. I feel like other scars are just, like, finally beginning to look good. Now there's gonna be more. But, I got brave. And I called my dad, and I asked him, because I had planned originally for my buddy to help me, like with the dogs, and then carting anyone to the vet if they need to. A gold wisp! Give me— oh, you fucker, you took it. He broke his foot and ankle. Bro stepped into a hole. Like, don't take your paws for granted. So he has a boot, and he'll be able to help with the dogs, but driving and doing vet and, like, cat carrier, which is kind of awkward, is going to be difficult. So I asked my dad, and my dad does not like going to the vet. He does not like doing more than he has to do, but he also has, like, medical anxiety, so he really doesn't like going to the vet. But I asked him if he'd be willing to take in the kitties if they need to go while I'm recovering, because I'll be on a no kitty lifting restriction for like at least 2 weeks. Leah's gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. And he's willing to help. I'm so grateful. I feel like this sounds bad to say, but like I heard no so much as a kid for good reason sometimes. And I'm always surprised when he says yes as an adult. So I still feel like a kid asking, like, Dad, please. But then most times as an adult, it's like, sure. Versus as a kid, it's like, no. Oh, excuse you, Gunther. Big burp. Griffin Bane. She's a knockoff Gryffindor whore. Dollar store Gryffindor. Dollar store Griffin whore. Neck. You guys are tough. This is not gonna go great. I do feel like this was probably— no! We're not set up for success here. This is probably a better tower to start with than the other one, though. I think, but we'll find out. Gunther, you're so cozy. Where you were next to me. You're over there chilling. It's time for your GABA in a few minutes. Yo, GABA, GABA. I haven't put on you. He mostly watches Bird TV. And Jack Hanna, I haven't put Yo Gabba Gabba on for you in forever. Gunther really likes Yo Gabba Gabba. There's not a lot of episodes of it though. I feel like from night to morning it's the same. Like when I'm waking up in the morning, it's the same as what's rerunning at night. Is there only like a day's worth of episodes of Yo Gabba Gabba? He fizzled, we equalized. He fizzled too. Maybe we have a chance. Just maybe. A spell card. Oh, your ear is itchy, huh? It's okay. Bah, 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 bah. It's okay. I'm sorry, your ear is itchy. Got a little bit warmer, like high 30s, almost 40s. And then it rained a bunch, and then it snowed. Now it's back in like the teens. Frosty. I don't think you're feeling well with that. Kinda like how my voice gets crackly at like the slightest change of weather. Gunther's ears get upset at the slightest change of anything. It's okay. Also, Voya's pee-pee, apparently. Evidently. Apparently. Mr. Bean, it's okay. I don't blame you. You did such a good job. Voya was like the favorite patient at the hospital. Everyone was saying how pretty he was, how sweet he was, how much they loved him. They even shaved him like super nice and perfect on his side. Like along with his stripes and coat color. I don't know why my sound alerts are working, but hey, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the cult. Is whatever you want it to be, baby. Is a choose your own adventure, and thank you for taking the time to be here. Sometimes it yells at me when we get a follow, and sometimes it does nothing. If I don't see my screen, then I don't see it. Thank you. You have the week's being kind to you, or the weekend is starting off wonderfully as well. I swear bots are why. I don't know. I don't see how it could be bots. I feel like it's how I have it set up in OBS. And I either toggle something... Oh, crap. I just died. We almost won, and then I died. Darn it. That wasn't pleasant. Well, now we're back at the commons. I think it's a skill issue on my end, honestly. I don't have any bots running on Twitch. I had Nightbot, and I remodded Nightbot, and he won't come back. He ditched me. He left me. He said, Serena, we're not doing this again. Once it's over, it's over. And Nightbot will not come back. I don't know how to retoggle him back. I did everything I needed to, but he won't come back. I'm not upset about that. You're upset about that. Oh, Voya better have an infinite amount of lives because he's gone through quite a few before. Oh my goodness. He came in, ripped to shreds by some animal, recovered, and then had terrible bouts of respiratory issues, like chronic upper respiratory infections. And then he was doing good for a while. I don't want to go shopping. And then he had a little bit of urinary issues for a while, but nothing like what was going on now. And then he was fine. And then his liver failed, so he has medication for his liver all the time now for a few years. So him and Chauncey are liver brothers in arms now. And then you've been doing pretty good. You've had like worser dental issues with age, but that's true with every cat. That's not like special for being FIV. But now your pee-pee tried to fail you. And I think all the men in the room can feel for you on that one. Can either empathize or sympathize. I called my dad and told him what happened to Voya. He's like, I passed a stone once. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to know that. I don't want to think about anything like that, please. Follow's not making noise or bots. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder. It makes you wonder. I don't know, that's a pretty unique username. I benefit of the doubt, but I feel like Sephiroth is a real person. And is possibly awesome. I don't know, I haven't met them yet. They just entered the room. I did, I slighted Nightbot by unmodding him. Slightbot. Will only enter the chat now as Slightbot. No sound. Regular chat or follow sound. Dang, I wonder if it has something to do with age of account, too. In terms of it being, like, botted versus not. If it's, like, within 30 or 60 days versus I don't know, like a legacy account that's been around for like 6 months or a year. It's silly to think of such a short time like that, like legacy, but I wonder. PP bros unite. Yes. Just please don't tell me about your stones. I feel for y'all with that, but I don't want to hear it. It's no. Nope. I feel bad because I feel like I miss a handful of thank yous each stream, but only like 1 or 2 of them will speak to me. They're the person or the follow toggle. Which is okay. Most streams that I participate in, I don't participate. I just chill in the background and watch. We are a lurker-friendly stream. But it makes you wonder. I don't know, I have Twitch set to where, or Kick set to where your account has to be a certain age amount old to prevent spam, bots, people having a bad day, etc. I think you can set the same on Twitch. I might have it set to something small. I don't remember. There's so many settings to go through on Twitch. It's a very first world problem that I have with that, but it just makes me not want to go through it and check what anything is. Because there's so many layers. It's ogres and onions. It's layers. It's too much. Can't do it. I mean, I can, but I need, like, the right amount of, like, coffee and Ritalin for that. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I'm a little bit too far. There's a perfect little sweet spot that allows me to dive into that, and it's rarely reached. Sometimes, though, which is nice. How did I really go the wrong way here? Like, I went big wrong. I'm gonna get into battle. Let's get down to business to defeat the Spellrit Screamer. Haven't passed a stone yet, but you've lifted plenty. Oh my goodness. Oh, you Atlas. You got the weight of the world on your shoulders. Beep, beep, beep. I mean, my dad's old-ish. He's more aged. I would venture to guess than many or most of you. He's 30 years away from being a century old, which is weird to think about. So I mean, statistically, if you only get like 1 in that time period, that's not bad. I mean, that still sucks, but it could be worse. Makes you guys feel any better from putting the fear of God into anyone about PP stones. Participated in one of those Scotland games you had at your local museum and tossed a stone there. That's cool! Was it like, excuse me, like a whole festival situation? Scotfest. Everyone named Scott needs to show up. How did you make it in? Changed my name tag. That's cool. That's exciting. I've only done like redneck stuff at like a festival thing, whatever, before. We have something in Illinois called Hunting and Fishing Days. And I don't remember exactly where they... Oh shit, I'm gonna die. Uh-oh. I don't remember exactly where they do it, but it's kind of out in the boonies. It's a decent drive. And they have like this whole big giant trailer that has every fish in Illinois, which is really neat. But they also have little archery setups and little shooting range setups. All of that fun stuff. I enjoyed it there. I didn't do any of the archery. My niece was super into that though. But my nephew wanted to shoot, and I didn't want him to go and do that alone. Like they have like a little training class, and teachers and someone there helping you with it, just shoot the clay pigeons. But I didn't want him alone for that. He was like 8 or 9 then. I was a little too young to go and do your own thing. My niece would have been 11 or 12, I think. And she's very responsible, so she was allowed to go shoot arrows. I'm gonna die! It's part of a history of whiskey thing. That's cool. There's drinking and throwing stuff. That's even cooler! Was there a lot of kilts? Or are kilts more Irish than Scottish? About as Scottish as you can be without swearing. Sounds like fun. I was super blonde then for that event, thinking back. I like those pictures. It was light blonde. That would be the color I think I'm gonna go for again. Do you guys understand how hard it has been during this traumatic timeline to not resort to my old ways and bleach the fuck out of my head? I keep reminding myself I have to be with Voya, I have to be watching Voya, I have to see what Voya is doing. Need to clean the box safe. We should be okay for a minute though. I keep reminding myself I can't just go and walk away and bleach my head, but I have wanted to cope with that so badly. Doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, just dyes her hair when feeling uncomfortable in life. Kilts were involved. I'm here for this. I need this in my life. Why can't I go over that? Why don't we have stuff like that here? Lame. We probably do, I just don't know about it. Where am I going? No, I didn't mean to do that. God damn it. God damn it. God damn it. A lot of fun. I wonder if Ringo would want to go this summer. I think I've told you guys about that fest before. The Illinois hunting and fishing dates. So they have... It was the first time I ever saw the dogs with the ducks, like the fake ducks, doing little demos, and it was so cool to see. That was the first time I ever saw dogs working, and it was amazing. Although I wonder if Ringo would want to chase the duck. Not if he's trained good enough. I had to call and move his school because he's positive for Giardia again / still. And then I have surgery, annoying, so can't be pulled around by happy puppy, happy giant horse puppy. So he's gonna start school February 17th instead. And I think it's gonna be same time classes, but it's gonna be Tuesday nights, I think it is. Yeah, it's a Tuesday, so I might be missing you guys on Tuesdays for like 6 weeks in February. He has Go in his name, he would go. Ringo's celebrity name of the day is Handsome Jack, and it translated to Tank as well. I came into Tank's room and I was like, hello, Handsome Jack. It just came out of my mouth. I was tired. Things just come out of my mouth when I'm tired. And Handsome Jack would have been such a cute name for Tank. I had like a little sobby moment. Like, that would have been so cute for you if you didn't already have a name. I feel like Tank has that look to him. Like the way his hair is, it makes him look like he has like the cocky expression like Handsome Jack. It would have been a very cute name for him. It would have been adorable. He does have a villain arc, and I'm sure Tank did too while he was outside when he was being a wily boy, knocking up all the ladies in the hood. That's kind of a villain arc. Making more cats for me to feed outside. When going through Voya's old pictures, I need to find... Some things live in the cloud and not my phone anymore. I need to find the videos that I took through the door, like through the window, when Voya was outside and eating. Because he would wait and mostly eat with the raccoons, and there were 2 other cats that came around before... Excuse me. Double excuse me. 2 other cats that would come around and eat before him. And one of them might have been Tank. I want to look back at the videos if I still have them and if they're clear enough and see. Because that would have been about 6 years ago. But the first two were fighters, and then Voya would eat with the raccoons after, because the raccoons would be chill. Voya was a friend of the raccoons. It makes me wonder. Aw, and when I was at my vet's the other day, one of the techs has a baby kitten that just showed up in her window, like tanked into us. It's a little 5-week-old baby. Like, she has no idea how it even got up to the window or what's going on there or how that happened. I need more mana. This is not ideal. It's a little baby gray tabby. A little bit darker than Voya and probably going to be fluffy like Slavka. Damn it! But she's so cute. I got to hold the baby and huff her. Love the baby. Tig is the only good boy. He's just good at making Eggos. Yeah, you can't blame him. It's hormones. I mean, Void, I think, definitely never wanted to have babies in the first place. She was kind of a clueless mom. She certainly wasn't like she was a good mom, but not like an overly attentive one. She didn't correct her children once. I had to move them over so they would nurse properly the first few days. Number one especially. Little Miss Stripes. She doesn't know that I helped her survive. But that's okay. She can live her best life and be a happy babe. We're just gonna consistently heal. But it's just their hormones. Just their hormones. Poor Void is shaved. And she's definitely had litters before this one. She got some titties going on. Like, she got, like, full-on boobies. I feel bad. Just the last two are really saggy. And as cute as both of them are, they don't need to be making more babies. Voya, you would have had beautiful babies, though. If there ever was a cat that I would have wanted to have bred in some way, and I feel insane saying this because I think this is so wrong, and adopt from your local shelter, and spay and neuter your pets, etc., etc. But Voya, I didn't realize would be so special to me, and I wish I could have, like, thought about freezing his sperm or something. Because I would kill, die, and give everything to have another one of him. He is my world. Damn it! What? Why are you guys everywhere? Christ! I don't mean to keep getting pulled. I'm trying to collect mana. Am I just not looking where I'm going? I feel like they're genuinely overabundant tonight. Going to have to crochet her one of those cat bikinis? I'm thinking so. It's gonna take her a while for her hair to go back in and have her dignity back. She's all nudie and booby. Gunther disappears too, and that's weird. Yeah, you get those birds. You get those birds and squirrels. You get them. Boy is attacking the bird TV. He says tack tack. Tack tack. The babies are all shaven too. So in the start of January, Stripes and Nibbler are gonna go to their new home. And Daisy is still looking for a home. So if you are within 2 to 3 hours of the Chicagoland area, and you swear on your life that you will keep this cat indoors and love her forever, please send me a DM on Wild World of Serena on Instagram. And apply to adopt her. And if you're interested in Void too, she's a little bit of a shy girly, but we're trying to give her the chance for the best life there ever was. Hit me up for that too. Honestly, I love Void, and I love the bond that we've started to get. She actually crawled onto my lap and, like, stood, but stayed there for a little bit earlier. I thought she was going to settle for a lap, and then she climbed on the bed. It's like, oh, okay. But she really is so special. She would be an awesome cat to come home to. Like, even if someone works a fair amount, she just kind of relaxes all day. Like, she's so young, but she's gone through so much on the street and being a mom, etc. Like, she's so chill. Once she gets used to you, she's so chill. She would be the perfect cat for someone to not stress about, like, going to work a 9 to 5 and having her alone all day, because she would literally just sleep. Just sleep and relax, and then be excited when you come home. Daisy would probably do best with another cat, though. She's very energetic. She needs stimulation. She needs attention. But she's not annoying about it. She's very cute about it. It works in her favor. She's irresistible. Not gonna lie, part of me wants to love her forever because she's a mini Chong, but we gotta give her the chance for the best. Not that I'm not the best. Damn, you smacked me good. But if I can only give 50% of my time and attention and love and efforts, and someone else can give 100%, 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%, that would just be so much better. Like, I want them to have the best life. I know I can provide that, but someone with less zoo and more time to give would be better. But regardless, they always have a home here. We're not getting kicked out. We love them. I need mana. We have to go back to the commons. I fuckity fucked myself. I get into trouble. Trouble. Gunther, you scamoochied. Where's Voya? Voya, you just chillin'? Do you want your food? Oh, it's GABA time. It's 20 minutes past GABA time. He's reminding me. For the longest time, I had to pill him manually, and he's finally, maybe because he's stoned, letting me put it in the squishy treats again, which is awesome. I don't like having to pill you. Makes me feel like a mean mama. Like, I know sometimes we have to, but... There you go. Yo, Gabba Gabba! Yo, Gabba Gabba! You got it all? Okay, good job. You want some food? Some food. Some food. There we go. Your new cones should be here tomorrow. They should be. And Zeke, I realized, tries to drink while I'm pouring now. And I think he wants a fountain, so I got them a fountain too, and that one's on the way. Shout out to Amazon gift cards. So Voya's either going to be an avocado like Tank, or he's going to be a bread slice, or... Wait, no, I didn't mean to do that. I went the wrong one. Oh, okay, it's fine. Whoa. My character broke. I need mana. We'll figure it out in a minute. Oh my god, there's only like little parts of me coming back. That's so weird. That's so strange. There we go. Now we're back. This ugly ass outfit. That threw me off. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah. Keva. Oh, or he'll be a slice of bread. The Coens. Or he'll be a donut, because there's a donut one on the way too. I don't know which one will be best, because he can't lick his pee-pee. Got that sandpaper tongue. That's not good. Can't do that. Take your GABA too. Gabapentin makes me nauseous. I feel like it's such a commonly prescribed drug, and it's great for reducing anxiety in the short term, or like with a short term with a higher dose, or long term with a low dose. And I was prescribed it once for anxiety on a low dose, and it made me so nauseous and so sleepy. It was like nodding off, like ready to barf. It was not pleasant. So that's the only thing I have a note for under allergies on my medical file. You're hearing my HIPAA information now. That's one of my allergen notes, is that allergic to gabapentin, which I'm not really. I'm just sensitive to it. Foya's enjoying it though. He's doing well with it. So I gotta be creepy, and then you come through. Goob. You boob of a goob. How did it go from like 300 steps to like 600 steps? We're really getting our steps in today. Let's go. Let's go. Huh? That's not the right way. That was ambitious. Do you want it in a pill pocket too box? It's bacon flavored. It's not really a pill pocket. It's called cat mask, I think. Or pill mask? Pill mask. It's bacon flavored. It smells like bacon. I don't know if it tastes like bacon. I don't want to try it. It's a little too involved for me. Alright, let's nice and safely cross our way over here. Reindeers everywhere! 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 Mmm, bacon. Drool. Foya's treat masking stuff, or pill masking treats. There we go. Are bacon flavored. I actually bought it for Ringo, but it's cat and dog safe. And Ringo will just take things if I throw it in his bowl, I've learned. Which is fine. It's helpful. He's back on the Metro and the Panicure, which is so much fun. I feel bad. His poor little tummy. If all of his tummy issues have truly been like just congenital, having a bad start to life, I really hope he starts to build up an immunity. Ringo and Slavka had their birthday a few days ago. I totally forgot. We estimate their birthday would be December 13th. So they're both a year old now, which is crazy. It's crazy. Slavka's getting so big she can barely get through the grates of the gates anymore. She makes a lot of noise with it. My sister is a big booty Judy now. She's probably about 8 pounds, like the same size as Void now. I don't know. Just gonna do that even though Spell would beef it up. There's no guarantee that we'll get the card next time. There's no guarantees in life. None. Mr. Baby Bean just appears, disappears, reappears. Because you're magical. Is this okay that we're doing this today? Are you relaxing? I don't think any of these sounds are overwhelming or stressful, and I think he does like being on stream. Like, he's very performative, so I don't think that I'm causing any stress with this, but trying to keep it very, I feel boring tonight. I'm trying to keep it very, very low-key for the boy. Going for the most boring streamer award. The best boring stream that you'll ever watch. The most exciting boring stream that you could ever encounter. Let's do a heal. I think there's a certain level of expected sound from you in the zoo. Yeah. Trying to keep it at bay at a minimum tonight. Just not a quiet person in general. Like, even when I walk around, you know, some people have quiet feet, like they don't. Oh, Gunther. Oh my god, you're in Voya's way. He's drunk. He's not gonna be able to get down, honey. Do you wanna lay in bed? There we go. We're gonna snuggle tonight. We're okay. I do not have quiet feet. I stomp around without even realizing I do. It's very irksome to some. Dad used to always holler at me, "Stop stomping." I don't have graceful feet. Unless I'm thinking about it and trying, like wearing heels. Otherwise I sound like a horse. That's too much. Can't do that. Hee hee, my health is at 420. Party hard hard. So exciting. Motherfucker. That's how I feel about that. Woo, Chloe. I'm gonna heal. Heal. Assuming all goes well, and I know I jinx things when I say things, but I'm saying things anyway, so I have high hopes and expectations, because that's very healthy, you know? This weekend I want to bake, and unfortunately, we'll reevaluate as time goes on, but it's approaching Christmas, but I'm afraid to decorate for Christmas. I'm afraid to breathe harder than normal and stress Voya out. So, what we're gonna do is... this is gonna be so stupid. And I'm sorry in advance, but it's also gonna be funny, because why not just make it all scuffed as fuck? I don't know why I'm turning around and pointing, because we can't see behind me anyway. The fake tree plants thing that's in here, we're gonna decorate for Christmas. Put the ornaments on that, and we'll put some lights on it too. And I might do some things on the screen, and like that's about it. I'd like to get some snowflakes going, like how I can have on MFC. It's gonna be like a California Christmas. It'll be bright and sunny. Decorate the palm tree, but it's not a palm tree. I don't have a better solution. I'm afraid to put up a tree or like do anything that would make him feel sensitive at this point in time. We cannot go back to emergency and go through all of that. We just cannot. We cannot. So at some point in the next few days, we'll have that set up. Kind of gauge on how Voya's doing. But definitely before Christmas. Because otherwise, what's the point? And then, either Saturday or Sunday we'll bake. So I want to make some klatchkis. And some cookies. Maybe some muffins too. I like bulk cooking. Like in the way of, if I'm going to make something, like I'm going to make all of the things in one day. I'm not just going to dirty up the kitchen for one dish. If I'm feeling really ambitious and if I have time to go to the grocery store, I want to make pierogies too. It's a nice little Christmas tradition. It's a line from Kimmy Schmidt. She walks like a tired old man. I find that relatable. I do too sometimes. Like the first 3 hours that I'm awake, definitely. Because every time I move, I'm like, sit down, get up, It's not pleasant. Keep thinking you'll get a Christmas themed Hawaiian shirt someday. I think you definitely should. I think you should buy 2 and get one for my dad too. Because he likes really ridiculous Hawaiian shirts. It stemmed with just like kind of irking my grandpa because he wanted everyone to wear Hawaiian shirts for 4th of July to match. And we would all get together for cookout or whatever we were doing. And then my dad started buying ridiculous ones from Goodwill. And he found, the first one was like a Super America one. So it's Hawaiian shirt, like pattern, but it has like flags and motorcycles and like it just very Americana to the max. He's gotten a few more ridiculous ones since. I think that's his new secret joy in life. We might survive this one. We just might. Got a dub before bed. So when you find one, I need you to buy 2. I think he's a size medium. I feel like Hawaiian shirts are supposed to be over the top. No, some of them are cute, like with just like a basic like a color floral or sometimes the palm leaf pattern. They look nice, like definitely casual, but not a silly looking thing. Whereas the Americana one is fucking hilarious. The look on my grandpa's face, just I think he said something like, well, that's an interesting shirt. Insert name of son here. Oh my fucking god. Get through the battle! Through the battle! I guess some of them are pretty loud. But they still look cute. Unless you're Harley Davidson, American Jesus, then it's a choice. That's a choice. You versus you. Look into the mirror of your soul and feel my wrath. Blah blah blah. We did it. We did it.
But my master's grand design is
So awkward.
Triton Avenue is doomed.
No, he's a scarecrow, but it's like strung up like Jesus. His arm can move. Why are you gonna talk like this if you can talk like this? That's awkward. He wants to be Barbie.
Meet me outside, wizard. I need your help.
That's a witch, bitch. Thank you very much. Harvest Lord's chest. Oh. The boots of obstruction. Shoot, smash. An open book. Okay, it's bedtime soon. I'm ridiculous. If I do scarecrows, I always have crow friends. You know what? That's a really good question. Are they supposed to scare them away?
I overheard the Harvest Lord's plans. He was raising an army of rotting fodder, armed with storm magic to attack Wizard City. But there's more.
But wait, there's more.
The Tempest Nexus up on the ridge channels storm energy into Triton Avenue.
Pretty
The
ass
Harvest Lord
backwards.
diverted the flow of energy to enchant the amulets.
It's an astute observation.
But after he finished the amulets,
Foya's
he
so
directed the
drunk
flow back
waiting
on
for me in
itself.
bed.
The
Aw.
Nexus will explode and take Triton Avenue with it. Use the teleporter by the mill to reach the Tempest Nexus. I'll meet you up there.
Okay. Oh my god. I think they pull you in harder than everyone else. I feel like I'm so far away and I still get gotted. They just want me. Welcome, Matt Topher. I hope the week has been kind to you. Whoa. Where is... Voyaboo says welcome to my little flower child. My little flower child. Running out of time. There we go. Beautiful. Do 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 do. Got it! One more time. The Serena's in the back. That was big damage. Ow. Was it really worth chasing that one piece of mana for Serena? Like, fuck no. No. I don't know why you thought that was a good choice, but no. No. Nope. I'll take that there though. I'm staying my ass on the sidewalk around these bitches. Lord, have mercy upon my little witchy soul. Crikey. Are the spells casting tonight? No backfires? A few deaths, no backfires, thankfully. No rebounds. Don't call out my basketball skills like that. I actually just vitally defeat one of the tower bosses. So I'm feeling like the coolest 12-year-old there ever was. Oh, magical music time. Now we're gonna teleport. That's exciting. To high ledge. Is that where we're going? It's a high ledge. Okay.
Worse than I thought.
Uh-oh.
The Nexus
Got their
is firing
food.
moments. The controls, they aren't working. I can't set it right.
Not the Nexus.
Professor Bellstrom knows more about storm magic than anyone. Go ask him for help. I'll try to keep the Nexus stable. Hurry!
You can get to Ravenwood and back quickly by pressing the mark button to set your location. Give it a try. Use the return to commons button to get back to the commons, and then head to Ravenwood.
Magical. Get some pizza and soda pop? I'm down. Can I get some Skittles too? No, I want Swedish fish. Always sounds good. Will never not sound good. Now I want pizza. That's unfortunate. I feel like pizza is one of the most easily craveable foods. Where am I going? That's wrong. The School of Storm? Oh, okay. It's something that I've never met someone who doesn't like pizza. Certain kinds of pizza, certainly, but
Hello,
I
wizard.
feel like that's probably the most common craving that would ever exist.
If you mark your location, click the recall button to return to your mark.
Okay. Personal pizzas. Oh, I miss doing personal pizzas homemade with my niece and nephew. That was fun. Why won't you talk to me? Oh, use the Tempest Nexus. How do I use you? Oh, the control panel. The control panel. Pizza sounds good. If you guys could only choose one topping for a pizza that's not meat or a different kind of cheese, what would it be? I will go, oh god, I can't, mushrooms. I was thinking mushrooms or onions, but if I have to choose, if I'm making you guys choose one, I have to choose one.
You didn't happen to run into my little brother.
Well, I would venture to guess that most of you guys like your pizza with meat anyway. The separate veggie one, yeah. I'm annoying like that. Ooh, jalapeno sounds like it would be good. I don't think I've ever had that on pizza. Oh wait, no, I changed mine. Artichoke. Artichoke on pizza is the bomb diggity. There's only one pizza place around me that does it with artichokes,
It'll be good to see him again.
or offers artichokes. And it's so good. I haven't had food from them in so long. It's been years. I think they started that when I was just finishing grade school. I remember we got a veggie pizza and it had artichokes on it, and me and my dad freaked out about it. Like, this is the best thing we've ever eaten in our entire lives. And it was. Onion is a close second. Onion is so good. You know I love onions, though. I'm disgusting. I'll eat them raw. I don't think it was pickled necessarily, but marinated in brine, not oil. So I guess technically pickled, but not like heavily pickled.
You rescued Susie.
It's a place with pickled onions around here for a topping. Oh, that would be yummy. Pickled onions are good.
All's well.
My grandpa would put them in his martinis and I would get to snack on them. Not the martini ones, but the jar
Leave
ones.
that for later. For now, tell Sergeant Muldoon that things are calming down.
That sounds phenomenal. I thought artichoke was a new one. Artichoke hearts are pretty common pizza toppings out in Cali. What? Yours are ahead of the curve on everything. It is not common out here, and that makes me sad. These artichokes are so good. If given the choice, I could probably eat artichokes every day for the rest of my life. Specifically prepared, not just like raw and stabby. But they're so good. They're sinfully delicious. Oh god, artichokes and capers. I think I just want salty food tonight. Which is not uncommon. I'm like a deer. I crave salt. need a salt lick. He's not the private sergeant that I need. Do it, Box! Gardening is so rewarding. But if you plan on growing arugula, grow like 3 times less than what you think you want. Because arugula is the gift that keeps on giving. I learned the easy way and the hard way, because it's an easy keeper as well, that arugula bears a lot of arugula. I gave away so much arugula. I froze so much arugula. I made so much arugula into pestos. I ate so many salads. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I will warn everyone that ever talks about gardening to be mindful with arugula. it's a lot. Most difficult for me is always peppers. They end up spindly, and I think I plant them too close to something else that sucks up all the water and the nutrients, or I don't let them have the right sun ratio, which is possible. I probably should do my peppers in pots going forward. There's probably some deep-rooted pizza beliefs in Chicago. Those people find hard to overcome. Kind of. I don't think we're as fussy about specificity. I struggle with that word. Of pizza like we are hot dogs. I'm not even tell you guys how I eat hot dogs. You guys will say, "You're wrong. You're not from Chicago." Instead, no, I just like it the way I like it. Okay, thank you very much. But there's definitely a stigma on, is that even the right word for this? I guess so, because it's that taken intensely, for good deep dish. Like the quality of the dough and the composition of the dish. More so necessarily than like toppings. And the sauce. Most good places in Chicago versus like a silly little mom and pop shop or Domino's, Pizza Hut, whatever. The sauce is more acidic versus more sweet. Which I find a bit frustrating. When I do get pizza, I usually get the cheapy pizza because it has sweeter sauce. Otherwise, it doesn't give me acid reflux, but it makes me nauseous. My body just loves responding to things with nausea. Lemon caper salmon would do you right. Ooh, share some with Voya. He says, that sounds fabulous. Can eat it all and impress myself. You'll turn into an arugula if you eat that much arugula. New York, they have some very firm pizza thoughts. New York is more about thin crust, I think. Damn it! I didn't mean to get pulled into this shit. Ugh. Now the question is, how are we cooking the salmon? Are we doing dishwasher salmon? My dishwasher doesn't work. I am the dishwasher. Do I have to cook all the salmon? Sounds problematic. Sounds dangerous. I've never cooked salmon before. Thin crust, very oily, usually only one topping. Oh, no. Now you can tell I'm from Chicago. That's... needs to be more muchier than that. If it's gonna be thin and oily, it needs to be full of toppings. I need more to chew on than just drip. Get our salmon cooked. Cooking it is too much effort. I wouldn't know. I've never tried to cook salmon before. My dad doesn't like fish, so we rarely had fish in the house. My dad once bought a frozen duck, which sounds gross to me, but like I know you can buy like a frozen turkey, frozen chicken, etc. And it freaked me out so much that he literally, and this was one of the nicest things he's ever done, waited until I moved out to cook it. Because it freaked me out that bad. It got like hidden in the freezer. It was traumatic. We did not have a lot of fish in the house. My dad says if it's from the sea, it's not for me. I do remember liking it with a crunchy crust though. That was good seafood when I go out to eat with my grandparents. And my grandpa, bless his heart, did not understand what vegetarian or vegan meant or was. He would still buy me fish things. And it's like, Grandpa, I can't eat this. He would eat it too, but it made him sad on the regular. He's a horrible grandchild. Cooked a duck for Turkey Day one year. I mean, I bet it was good. I bet it is good. It's just... I guess it's the different shape is what it is. Versus buying a turkey or a chicken. It looks more real. Or like recently alive, which made me uncomfortable. Slavka? What the fuck are you... How did you even do that? How did you get here? Oh, I didn't close the door. Slavka! My baby. My baby. My baby. She said, Mom, it's dinner time. It's dinner time. It's dinner time. Ooh, Cyogenics can give you some tutorials for that one. He did a deep fried turkey this year. That scares me. I would never do that. I would fuck up. She eats goldfish. What's the difference? And I did when I was a vegetarian. But I was an unhealthy vegetarian. I was good at being a little tofu head for like 2 weeks. And I was like, yes, pizza and mac and cheese. Pizza, mac and cheese, and Boga burgers. This is my life. Not exactly, but more than what probably should have been consumed. Can be sketchy, but research and it'll be alright. No, that's what men are for. I don't need to learn. There's men that can do it. Problem solved. Situation sorted. That was not an ideal start. Oof. I think my grandpa just more like reflected on the things that we would enjoy together while he would be grocery shopping. And if we went grocery shopping together, I could remind him like, oh, I don't eat those. But he would go out of his way to buy things that we liked together. There's a brand of split pea soup. Oh, I haven't bought it in so long. But it's so good. He used to buy it all the time for us to have dinner together. Oh my god, I forgot about this. Have you guys ever heard of doing this? My grandpa used, and me, who puts ketchup on everything, or at least used to. Not really anymore, but I definitely used to. My grandpa used to put ketchup in his split pea soup. Like, cup of split pea soup, and then squeeze ketchup into it. Has anyone ever seen anyone else do that? I feel like that's a grandpa specific thing, but you never know. Deep fried turkey is pretty easy once you know what not to do. Cooks fast and the result is moist. I mean, it inevitably can't not be juicy if you're submerging it in oil. An Earl. I think that's probably one of the high points of it, I would guess. It'd probably stay more moist longer in the fridge, too. Because even if you baste it well, it still kind of dries out in the fridge. Turkey is just not porous, I think. Like, it doesn't like to hold liquid. Put hot sauce or salsa on a lot of... Ooh, salsa would be good. I put hot sauce in my ramen sometimes. Just enough to, like, have a little bit of the taste, but not, like, overdo it and really fuck myself up. And then barf it all up, because it's... You don't want to waste food. Oh my god! Stop fizzling. I should have healed. I don't even know if I can heal. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die a death. I'm gonna die a death. Salsa sounds good, though. I never would have thought that. The tomato paste sweetness makes sense. I'll have to try it like that one day. I was never brave enough to do that when he was alive. I've never seen anyone else do it before. I love split pea soup. It's my favorite soup. So we're gonna deep fry that sucker. I know brine is such a common phrase, but whenever I read it or think it or see it or hear it, it makes me think of the brine shrimp and brine flies in the Great Salt Lake. And then it ruins the concept of brine for me. Even though I love making pickles and I know a brine is a part of that, etc., but it ruined it for me. It ruined it. The legacy of the ketchup in the split pea soup must carry on. It must. Put some ketchup on that bitch. I really do just want salty food tonight. That's what my brain wants. Lovely. Salsa seriously sounds so good in soup. Did you see someone else do that, or did you come up with that on your own? I feel like that's genius. It's the middle of the night. Everyone's hungry. It's impossible to not be swayed in your ways in the middle of the night. Your brain is just vulnerable. Vulnerable to outside input. That's why you consider your options, but you don't make a choice until the morning. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. I don't want to. I'm too young to die. Fuck. Fuck, 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 fuck. Fuck. It's a place that puts salsa and clam chowder. I tried it, so you thought it was good. I tried lots of other soups. Dang. I bet it would be good in a creamy soup like that. A little bit of salsa and like cream of chicken. I've never had clam chowder. I don't know what that would taste like. I've never had clams. I don't know what that would taste like. But I bet in a creamy soup it would be good. I'm assuming clam chowder is a creamy soup. One, it says chowder. And two, when I've seen it, it's white. Potato soup. Oh, I forgot about potato soup. Potato soup is pretty good with it too. Delish. Potato soup is so easy to make too. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That's why the pierogies are pending though. I don't think I even have any potatoes in the fridge. My fridge is empty as fuck. I've been eating like a basic bitch. Like the entire timeline of the babies. Oh god, I'm gonna die. Go out in a blaze of glory. Who knows? Maybe they'll both fizzle. Probably not, but it'd be nice. It'd be cool. It'd be cooler if you did or didn't do that. I'm dead. chewed me up and spit me out, and I'm dead. I'm dead, and it is time for bed. Until Voya is 100%, I'm going to be a strict lady. While I appreciate and I value our time very much together. The most important and stress-free thing that you can do for a pet is stay on routine. And the most important and stress-free thing you can do for a Serena is stay on routine. Had some In-N-Out burger. Can't help but get a little hungry talking about food. I know! I'm ready for dinner. It's good that we get into these chats right before mealtime for me, too. Oh, I feel for you, Box. I've been so on routine the last few days, and I think that's helped me cope with Voya being sick, like, so much. I'm grateful for that. Like, food-wise, I haven't been cooking for shit. I have frozen little, like, mealy things, soup, a whole bunch of boxes of soup, bagged salad. Like, I'm not even making my own salad. That's terrible. It's terrible. Was it a smash burger? Isn't that the fancy part of In-N-Out? Is that it's smashing. It's smashing. Okay, the fuck do I care? It's bedtime. It's very overly optimistic of me. Good night to the babies. Good night to the babies. Why is it saying free session? I don't understand that. Do I need to pay for this at some point? Like, I don't know. We'll find out. We'll figure it out when we need to. It's on a need to figure out basis. I need to figure out how to have my monitor straight with my camera mount too, because it's on a thing right now and it's crooked and I can't figure out how to balance it out perfectly with books. I tried earlier and I almost made my monitor fall down. So we had to abandon that. Wasn't their thing a smash burger? Oh, a smash burger is a different chain. Not bad, but not cheap. Uh-oh. Are they like the new Steak and Shake kind of sitch? Gotta feel the zoo, gotta feed the zoo. All the things. Give everyone their chin scritchels. Oh, Diesel will not stop licking his ankles no matter what I do. So now he is wearing the bubble cone and he looks fucking hilarious. And I feel so bad, but he looks hilarious. Oh my gosh. Baby's feeding definitely does help with routine. Because they have to eat 10, 2, and 10, and 2. But it does not help with the adding sleep portion of everything. But that's okay. It hasn't been hard to sleep with. Well, a little bit when they were sick. But otherwise from like 6, 8 weeks until about 14 weeks, 13 weeks, 12 weeks. It was a little better sleep. Kind of a basic burger, but with good fresh ingredients. Oh, that sounds delicious. That sounds delicious. Some fresh pickles. Some fresh pickles? Are you okay from the trip earlier? What was earlier? I did not leave my house today. I didn't leave my house today. It was like the first day in so many days that I just got to chill at home. That's nice. Appreciate that. Tripped on the cord? Oh no, I think I ran into the monitor over here. It's fine. It just maimed me for a moment. It didn't cause permanent damage. My leg isn't broken. It's not wanging out like that. I'll survive. Yeah, my third monitor is on the floor right now with Bird TV playing for the cats. Because Voya likes that, even though he's sleeping, but Zeke likes it too. Alright, babies. Thank you for a wonderful night. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your chats. Thank you for your support. And thank you for your company. More than anything, thank you for your time. Time is very valuable. And is a finite resource. I am immensely, immensely honored and grateful when you guys are able to spend your time here, or choose to spend your time here. Thank you oh so mucho. Whether it is for 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 2 hours, if I don't see you again for 2 years, when our times collide, it is beautiful, magical, amazing, and marvelous. And I appreciate you all oh so mucho. Oh so mucho. Thank you, Cygenics. I appreciate that. It's always good snuggles with Voya. He's loving the new pillowy L-shaped setup. No, I did not make the bed tonight. Yes, it's blurred out and shh. No one knows the difference. But he's enjoying the new setup there, and I like spooning with my baby. That's my happy place. Just need my bean man. He's a good boy. I'm gonna get good snugglies tonight. I had all 3 of them stacked up with me last night. Voya, Gunther, and then Zeke towards my feetsies. It was hilarious. I might have taken a picture. I don't know, or I was really sleepy. I had a terrible night terror last night. The first time that I can remember being conscientious of the time in my dream. So it was noon, it was midnight, and then it was noon. And then I woke up. So in 2 hours and 38 minutes, I dreamed 36 hours. That's almost freakier than the nightmare. Oh, I was more focused on Zeke and Gunther snuggling because Gunther was under the blanket. But they were cute. They were being very cute. I take so many pictures of them. Cat stack. I guess I had them in opposite order. Boy, it was towards the end of the bed. Zeke looks like a panther. Zeke like a panther. Okay, I need to go to bed. You guys want to keep up with me offline? Hop into the Disky Boo. Otherwise, we got the fun stuff. Socials. Some more fun stuff. The sketch for when I will see you babs next. Voya pending. Voya pending for everything. Thank you all for being part of the holidays. And Stream Dreams Project. Oh, where the fork am I typing? You're all wonderful and amazing and incredible. I appreciate you all. And a little friendly reminder, I got some deals and steals going on for Voya's Big Bet Beals. He's not currently in hospital. He's in my bed. I need to update that. He's back home. He's just still slightly asymptomatic and we're all recovering. Let's put it that way. We're all recovering. It's been a journey. But, oh, we haven't played that game in a while. Journey is a really cute little standalone game, and I like it. It's very relaxing. It's very chill. It's very calming. How do I have my camera oriented right now? There we go. It's a little bit more fucking normal and not, like, zoomed the hell in. Journey is really cute. I'm going to see if I still have it on PlayStation. Whip that out at some point this weekend, too. I think that one you're supposed to be able to get through in, like, 50 minutes, but I can get through it in, like, an hour and a half. Because I'm super cool! So maybe we'll bop into some of that. It's very, very cute and chill. Relaxing. And zen. Alright, Beebs. Get some good eats tonight. Get some good eats. Get some good sleeps. Do me one favor, and that is that you are wonderful, amazing, incredible, kind, spectacular, wonderful, amazing, and oh so gorgeous. All the good things in the world. Take all those compliments, and once again, I have no pockets, but you put them in your back pocket, your side pocket, your cute little hoodie pocket, your adorable little shirt pocket, floating in suspended animation, or wherever it needs to go until I see you next, you sweet babos. Have a marvelous rest of your evening and a beautiful weekend. Stay warm if I don't see you. So some snacks and slumbers. Yes, we are en route to. It takes time to sniff the roses. And trying to goad me into setting up smell-o-vision and buying flowers. I should have bought you flowers. Oh, I can't listen to that song. It makes me think of Voya and then I cry. can't do it. I'm a big baby. I'm a big baby. As long as Voya's around, I'll be around. We're gonna have a low-key Christmas because I cannot disturb the boys' peace. But I don't know, just pretend I'm a Jehovah's Witness this year or something. I have no excuse. That's the best I've got. Just pretend that's the case. Smell-o-vision becomes a Club Cult thing. I would chip in for a flower budget. I mean, I feel like at that point I could just send you guys all flowers. And then we could just all smell them together. I feel like that's a simpler route than like tubing out of my stream room to all of your houses. Just like get a tube through the window and streamer sniff. Now I need to go to bed. This is not my final thought of the night, but yes it is, apparently. Get some good sleep tonight, Club Cult. Oh, snap, and don't forget to vote for your fave cosplayer who's doing a bang-up job at cosplaying is awake right now in the Havian Awards. I still can't believe we actually got the nomination. Like, that's an honor right there, but like, dang. Love you guys. It's wonderful. Thank you. I'm humbled as someone who did pretty much nothing of value this year other than show up and be my best self. It means a lot. Thank you. I am humbled. Okay, now we get some sleeps. That's a better closing thought. Thank you all for a wonderful night, and I will see you all for the next one. Get some good sleeps, get some good eats, make good choices. Don't do anything I or Voya wouldn't do, and don't forget to be wonderful you.